Hi, I'm Paul Brodie, and our last video was on the dyno, and I was not happy with that at all. So came home. My voice is not 100%, so I apologize for that. Came home and I thought about things a lot. So first thing I did was to look up my megaphone notes. I've got an Aramaki binder, and I've got all sorts of notes in there. And I did these notes on January the 16th, 1998. That's a long time ago. So what happened is this pipe that was on it, on the dyno, it's either that one or that one there. And that's a 1966 pipe, and that's a 1965 pipe. So, and the 250 engine is very different from the 350 engine. A 350 didn't come out until 1969. So I think that these pipes are a mismatch for a 350. That's what I think. I did use it once on the track, and it hauled on the straightaway, and in the corners it bogged, really bogged. So after 4 laps, I came in and I took off that pipe, never used it again, never checked the spark plug, never checked the jetting, but it hauled on the straightaway. So that's why I thought I would use that pipe. Maybe not such a great idea. So I switched over the pipe, and then I made some phone calls. I know a guy, and that's a Tommy McFarland. And he's Irish, and he's been into motorcycles forever. He's got a huge collection and parts, and he doesn't like to sell things. And he's in his 80s now. So anyway, I phoned him up, and he's been very helpful to me, and he told me about some things. I bought this carb off eBay. It came out of Spain, and I had some help over there because if I remember, it was the transaction, and it wasn't going smoothly. So I know this carb was used on a 2-stroke, so I changed all the main things. I changed the slide, I changed the needle jet, and I changed the main jet. I did a bunch of stuff that I knew I would have to do, changing from 2-stroke to 4-stroke. But then he's telling me about other things, about a spray tube, which is this, and he's telling me about the holder. I don't even know the name of this piece. It holds the pilot jet, it holds the main jet, and there was one other thing. Oh, there's a air spray tube that goes in the back of the carburetor. I'm going to take this off and show you. So he asked me about there. I took my carb around, and we had a chat. So thank you for that, Tommy. He told me about a conversion that he does. This is an Amil main jet. And I was at a swap meet in Tawasin 30 years ago. I don't know. It was a long time ago. And I bought this. It's McKinney jets, and it starts at a 180, and it just goes up from there. Goes up into the 300s. So the main jet I had in that is a 220, and that's basically this one here. So I had a good range of jetting in there. And he told me about a conversion that he does where he takes a McKinney jet and he shortens up an Amil, and he shortens it up, he makes a thread, and then I can use any of these jets, and it screws right in. I'm going to take off the float ball and show you. And that's a pretty handy thing. So I heard about that off Tommy, and I came back and I measured the thread, because it's a metric carb, right? It's a McKinney, and it's not a standard size at all. in metric, you've got 5 mil, 6 mil, that's obvious. This one is not a 5 mil, it's larger than that. It's actually a 5.3, which is completely weird in metric. And so I got the taps off Tommy. They're a 1BA, which is an old English thread. And I think why that happened is McKinney back in the 60s, it had some sort of a interaction with Amil. And for some reason, they started using these. So he had a set. So I shortened up the jet, and I bored it out. This is all in the week between first dyno, second dyno. Everything was happening last minute. So I'll take off these, and then we'll look inside. I'll show you what's going on. I never knew about this at all. I learned a lot in that 1 week. Still learning after all these years. It's fine. Okay, so there's the insides. And I'll take out this. That was tight. Didn't want that to fall out, did I? No, no, no. Okay, so these are things that I didn't know. So what I had in there is this, and you see how this is longer than this? Well, the one that I had in there, the longer one, that's a two-stroke. I did not know that. See how much shorter it is? How much higher the main jet goes? So that was one of the first things I learned. And then the second thing I learned is that on the pilot jet, which on the needle jet, sorry, this one here, there's a two-stroke and there's a four-stroke. I never knew that. And so this one, where's my pointer? This is the two-stroke and this is the four-stroke. And can you see the difference? This is bored out more on the four-stroke than it is on the two-stroke. And you see the holes? It's a cross-drill hole. It comes out the other side. That is four-stroke. And I didn't know that. So I had in the wrong jet, even though the size, even though, like, if this is, I think it's a 107. Yeah, it's a 107. Even though this hole on a 107, four-stroke, two-stroke, they're the same, there's these other differences. So you have to know which one is four-stroke and which one is two-stroke. And I had the wrong jet in there. So this here, can you see that used to be an Amil jet? So what I did is I put it in the lathe, I cut it off here, and then I bored it out with the tap drill size, and then I tapped, but I went all the way through. And so on the first one I installed, when I went through, it snapped off because it was too thin. So I made another one, and that's this one here. So this is replacing this. So can you see how it ends up being, it's the same length. There's a little bit of a taper there, so I can't match it up perfectly here. But that is exactly the same length when this one is installed. That's the air jet. I don't know what to call it, and I don't know which circuit it affects, but it does. Yeah, that's great. Oh, I got a needle. Oh, this is the one I just put in. That was a better fit than the other one. The other one just fell out. Okay, I'll just get an easy out and we'll pull it out. There. That wasn't hard. Didn't make any marks. Okay, I talked to Tommy, and he says that there are 3 sizes. I didn't know that either. And there's a large, a medium, and there's a small. So he said, so what I need in this cob is a 2 mil. So I measured this one. Okay, we're at 0, and I'm at 2.58. So, oh, I have to go to my lathe and I have to make one. So I made this one. Well, it's drilled a little oversized, but it's a little over 2 mil. So I made that change. So what I've changed so far is the needle jet, and I've changed this thing, which I don't even know what to call it. It's the holder between the needle jet and the main jet, and that's all good. So this guy goes back in there. There we go. See, it goes in okay. Just use my thumb, but a little tricky to get out. So those are the changes. And I went back to all of the original jetting. So I want you to look at this page. Years ago, this was back in 1999. So a quarter of a century ago, I made contact with the Bladden brothers in England, and they are aeromachy experts. They prepped a lot of bikes for the Isle of Man. And what I would do is I would phone at 9 o'clock my time in Canada, West Coast. I'd phone England because they were ending work at that time, and they seemed happy to chat because I paid the long distance fee. And I'd always have a piece of paper and a pen, and we would talk about aeromachys for an hour usually. And I asked them all sorts of stuff, and they were really willing to help me, you know, with the jetting on the new engine. So this is the specs which they gave me, and it's got all the carb specs and everything. And so I built the engine, you know, and we talked about the piston, the cam, the compression ratio, and all that. And I set it up using all their specs for the carburetor and this pipe, my little shorty pipe with a silencer on the end. And I went out on the track for the first time, and the bike started up, and it sounded crisp. And I never changed anything on the jetting, nothing. So the jetting on this engine is the same as that. It's different motors, but aeromachy, they're the same year, 72. That's the best year to use. So that if you're building a road racer or you want a fast aeromachy, this spec really works. Okay. And then, what else have I got here? So here's my notes for, you know, that's me. I'm modifying the main jet. There's the specs for the main jet, and there's just some other notes in there. Okay, so I get the bike all fixed up. I got the other pipe on, changed all the jetting back to what we wanted in the older engine that I used. Went to the dyno a week later. We got it fired up. Took some time to get all the settings right and the gearing. And then we did what's known as a sweep. There's Dave on the dyno, and he sets it up so that you accelerate the engine in, it could be, no, it's actually all 5 gears, I think. And so when he's on the dyno, and he accelerates it. And at first, this is the dyno sheet. And the first stop is at 5,500 RPM. That's right here. And then the next stop is at 6,000, 6,500, 7 grand, 7,500. And I don't, well, actually, the last one we did was 8 grand. So maybe this got shifted. I don't know. But anyway, you can see what the numbers are. This is horsepower and torque And this is the CO, because last time when we had the other pipe and all those different huge, huge main jet and everything, we were down here. We were really, really lean. I don't have those charts. Really, really lean. So now we're back on the dyno, and this is fine. So horsepower at 7,500 RPM was 32. I was hoping to have it up here because another dyno run I did was at Modern Motorcycling, Murray. And this was back in 2001. And actually, it looks like we went up to 8,500 somehow, but we had 36, 35 horsepower. And that was good. So that's a comparison, except dynos aren't all calibrated the same. This is over 20 years ago, so it's just sort of a comparison. But the bike was running really well here, really strong. It didn't want to idle at all, but that's okay. It's a race bike. So I left with a smile on my face this time at the dyno because I knew that I wouldn't have to do anything else to it. Not in the next little while. So I think I showed you a bunch of stuff. That's my little magnifying glass. My father had it in England back in the 60s. That's all. It's all metal. It's beautifully made. You know, if you go to a store now, it's going to be plastic. So I like things like that. My news. Unfortunately, I'm back on chemo. So I had my first chemo yesterday. I feel stronger. Not in so much pain today, and that's good. So I think me and chemo, I think we can get along. So my doctor found out that I was going to Utah for a holiday at the Salt Flats, and she advised me. She said, in your condition, you should not be leaving the country. So I'm taking her advice, and unfortunately, we're not going down to the Salt Flats this year. That's just me being smart, following my oncologist's orders. So thank you for your support. Mitch and I like coffees. If you buy us coffees, helps our channel a lot. And we'll see you next time.